All right, boys and girls, today I'm going to tell you a story about the events that happened on September 11th, 2001. But first, I'm going to color this map so that we can see what's going on here. So the part of the United States, so this is the United States. This is the Northeast region. These are the states that we've got set out here. So this is the Atlantic Ocean, and this is New Jersey. And then this is Massachusetts, where two of the planes took off from, Logan International Airport in Boston. And this is Pennsylvania, one of the states where one of the planes crashed. In New York, borders Canada up on the top. This is Long Island. The Twin Towers were in New York City. This is Maryland with Washington, D.C. right there. We'll shade in Connecticut, followed by the smallest state in the country, Rhode Island. Here's how the events unfolded. Before I do that, let me talk a little bit about the airplane that was used in this particular attack. So this is the Boeing 757. I'm going to put it together here in a second. This plane was instrumental in attacks designed for long-haul travel. And the 757 and the 767 have what's called the same type rating. So that means if you're a pilot and you can fly the 757, you are also certified to fly the 767 because the cockpit is the same or very similar. So most pilots, if you know how to fly one plane, they don't let you fly any other plane because you need to have training and certification on another plane. But this one is unique in the 757 and the 767 in that they were the same type rating for pilots. It's a single aisle. This is a 757. It's a single aisle. It had between 200 and 289 passengers. When full, had a glass cockpit and two turbofan engines. This is the plane that crashed into the Pentagon and in the field in Pennsylvania. The 767, basically the same type of plane, glass cockpit, two turbofan engines, but it could carry a few more passengers, up to 375. They had a long-range version of this. 24,000 gallons of fuel on the 767. The 767 crashed into the North Tower and the South Tower. Here's how this whole thing. So this is the thing with the plane. All of four of these planes left the East Coast, okay, this area here, and they were all bound for here, Los Angeles, and one was for San Francisco. So in order to make it from here to here, you have to have a full tank of gas. Otherwise, you're not going to make it because this is a long way. So the hijackers knew this and chose planes that were going to be full, because if you're not going all the way across the country, you're not going to need to have a full tank of gas because it weighs too much. So the least amount of fuel that you can have to make your safe flight, the better. So they knew that this was going to be a full tank of gas. Full tank of gas means that it's more explosive. So when you crash it into a building, it's going to really blow up because there's a lot of gas, 24,000 gallons. This plane was only going to, say Chicago or whatever. Well, it might have half the fuel in it. That is the thing with the plane. On a clear, sunny late summer day on the 11th of September 2001. Al-Qaeda terrorists aboard 3 hijacked passenger planes carried out coordinated suicide attacks against the World Trade Center in New York City and the Pentagon in Washington, D.C., killing everyone on board the planes and nearly 3,000 people on the ground. A 4th plane crashed into a Pennsylvania field, killing all on board after passengers and crew attempted to take control from the hijackers. So here's the timeline of how this works. Flight number, let's call this flight number 11, was the first. It was an American Airlines plane. It was a 767. It had 92 passengers, 92 people on board. It left Boston Logan Airport and was headed to Los Angeles. It took off from Boston Logan at 7:59 a.m. and made a path just about like this, and then crashed into the North Tower of the World Trade Center at 8:46. So 47 minutes later, this plane crashed into the North Tower. Flight number 175 was a United Airlines plane, a 767 with 65 passengers on board, people. This took a similar path, left Boston Logan at 8:14, and 49 minutes later crashed into the South Tower. This is flight 175. It was 19 minutes after the first crash, also a 767. So then we come to flight number 77. Now, flight number 77 took off from Dulles Airport at 8:20 in the morning. And it made a loop similar to this and crashed right back into the Pentagon building. The Pentagon is a building that's shaped like this from above, an opening in the middle. Crashed into it. So this was flight number 77. Number 77 was an American Airlines 757 with 64 people on board. So this was, what time was this? This was at 8:20 in the morning. Crashed at 9:37. Famous of the planes was the Flight 93. Now, Flight 93 was a United Airline 757 with 44 people on board. It took off from Newark Airport, which is right around here, and this was bound for San Francisco. Okay, so it took off here, and right about here, since here's the interesting thing about this flight. This is 93. The interesting thing about this plane was that by the time it took off at 8:41, it crashed at 10:07. But it took off 40 minutes late because the flight was delayed. So it took off late, which gave the rate, all the communication between the planes and the ground crew were alerting people that, there was an attack happening. So the people on this plane got control of it somehow. Unfortunately, it's not like one of those things that you can just take and fly. I mean, I mean, you know, I'm sure they tried their best, but anyway, so it crashed into a field right here in Shanksville, Pennsylvania, where the 93 Flight Memorial stands, National Park. Yeah, by this time they knew that the other planes had crashed and that this plane was also there, so they figured, well, we've got nothing to lose. So on that day, on September 11th, 2001, a total of about 3,000 people were killed on that day by the hijackers. The South Tower came down at 9:59 in the morning. And then at 10:30 in the morning, the World Trade Center North Tower collapses. It's 102 minutes after being struck by Flight 11. And then later on in the afternoon, 5:20 in the afternoon, the 47-story 7 World Trade Center collapses after burning for hours. The building had been evacuated in the morning and there were no casualties, though the collapse forced rescue workers to flee for their lives.